General Hospital spoilers for the week of July 28 to August 1 state that Michael Corinthos will make a critical decision, while Emma Scorpio Drake and Giovanni Gio Palmieri conspire. Martin Gray will also gather new information, so here's what spectators may expect. After Jack Brennan informs Jocelyn Jacks of some new orders, Joss will address a Carly Spencer dilemma. It appears that Anna Devane's recent conversation with Carly raised some concerns about Vaughn and the type of person he is. Carly does not want Jocelyn to feel like she is in control of her love life, but she will express some worries nevertheless. Jocelyn will most likely have to portray Vaughn as a fantastic man now that Brennan is forcing them to amp up their phony relationship game. Meanwhile, Willow Tate will decide the fate of her wedding ceremony. Willow seemed to be on the verge of refusing to marry Drew Kane. Cody Bell and Tracy Quartermaine will receive some good news, possibly learning that Drew's wedding day turned into a nightmare. Whatever the case, Elizabeth Baldwin will welcome a new house guest, so Willow may relocate there after leaving Drew's residence. Alexis Davis will seek answers later, so she may be upset by Scout Kane's sorrow and bewilderment. It's possible that Alexis will look to Drew for an explanation of why his wedding failed. Nina Reeves will meet up with Curtis Ashford and Portia Robinson, once any extra wedding turmoil has been resolved. Curtis will accept responsibility for Willow's outburst at Nina, and will apologize for upsetting Nina by revealing her secret. Nina might get over it soon because she was going to spill to Willow anyway, and Willow was going to blow out regardless. Portia Robinson understands what it's like to have a buried secret come back to haunt you, so she'll offer Nina some comfort. Martin will then provide some interesting information. After reading the letter sent to Monica Quartermaine, Martin may do some research to learn more about the sender. There's a fair probability this connects into an impending narrative regarding Monica's estranged sister, so Martin will keep attempting to uncover additional truths. Back with Nina, spoilers indicate she'll make a secretive move. Nina may try to surreptitiously check on Willow to see how she's doing. Nina, on the other hand, may seek Drew's revenge and may go to any length to accomplish it. Willow, who will make a significant promise, may also be plotting retribution. Willow's pledge, however, may be related to her efforts to persuade Michael that she is done with Drew. This could be Willow's opportunity to get visitation with the kids, but only if Michael agrees. While Michael makes that vital decision, Jason Morgan will question Liesl Obrecht about Britt Westbourne's death. Jason will want to know every detail and will eventually ask Liz for help. Elizabeth's connection to the hospital may help Jason as he tries to figure out what happened on Britt's final night alive. Because Jason believes Britt could be alive, and we know she is, he will continue to work to confirm his notion and will reveal it to Anna later. Rick Lansing will have a new client. Rick will have a new case to work on, and it will be intriguing to see who will pay him next. Finally, Emma will reveal some information to Gio and plan with him. Gio and Emma are about to collaborate on a secret scheme. Thus they may opt to break into Professor Henry Hank Dalton's lab together. According to General Hospital spoilers, Emma and Gio will become closer as their scheming continues, so keep an eye out to see whether they kiss anytime soon. General Hospital spoilers suggest that Jack Brennan may soon leave Port Charles. According to reports, Brennan may be departing the canvas shortly, but writing out Carly Spencer's new lover may need to be done swiftly. Brennan could be linked in the unresolved mystery of who detonated the incendiary device in Sonny Corinthos' penthouse, resulting in a fire that injured Michael Corinthos. Someone does not want Sonny to learn the truth, and they might easily frame Brennan to take the blame. Anna Devane starts to uncover more evidence that the fire was WSB-related. It has already been discovered that the incendiary device was used by Selinsky, who has WSB ties, and that the assassin who attempted to kill Sonny in Los Angeles was also hired by someone with WSB connections. As a result, it's not unreasonable to suspect that someone in the WSB attempted to kill Sonny. Brennan was in Los Angeles. When an attempt on Sonny's life was made, it could have been perceived as suspicious. Brennan appeared to assist cover things up after Brick rescued Sonny's life from the assassin. Anna would continue to link Brennan to the assassin and the fire, which would not bode well for Brennan. Anna began to suspect Brennan was stalking Sonny. Sonny Corinthos cannot ignore the mounting evidence against Jack Brennan. Anna interrogating Sonny about the fire may raise his suspicions. Sonny may become aware that they are investigating Brennan's possible role in pursuing him, and he may begin to suspect that Brennan was involved all along. Sunny would be unable to ignore all of the facts and see that Brennan could be chasing him. He'd also deduce that it could be related to Carly Spencer. Finally, Jason Morgan could discover a connection between Selinsky and Brennan, leaving Sunny with little alternative but to take matters into his own hands. However, it is revealed that the true culprit is framing Brennan and wants him to keep their name hidden. Sunny Corinthos confronts Jack Brennan with a gun in hand. Brennan would strongly deny any involvement in the fire or the attempt on his life in Los Angeles. Sunny would bring out a gun and try to force him to confess. Meanwhile, Jason may inform Carly that it appears Brennan was behind it all, and that he is responsible for hurting Michael and then attempting to kill Sunny. Carly would refuse to believe it, asking Jason if Sunny was aware. Jason would say, "Yes, I do." Carly knows Sunny is after Brennan and would rush to stop him. Brennan would continue to deny any participation in the attempts on Sunny's life. But Sunny would order him to fess up or be done. Brennan would raise his hands and repeat that he did not do it. Carly bursts in, and Jason follows immediately as the pistol goes off. Did Sunny shoot Brennan? What do you think? What are your thoughts? Do you think Brennan will be framed for going after Sunny? Will additional proof emerge that Brennan is responsible? Will Sunny go after Brennan and eventually shoot him? Michael never expected that his efforts to protect his children would collide with a scientific enigma blossoming in the heart of Port Charles. He had spent the last few weeks negotiating a tenuous agreement over custody of Wiley and Amelia, attempting to provide stability for Willow, while also guarding against the instability surrounding Sunny and Nina. The situation was not ideal, but Michael had always recognized that compromise required sacrifice. What he didn't know was that his decision would lead to something considerably more hazardous, beginning with a stealthy break-in at the GH research facility. The compromise had arisen out of necessity. Nina, still hurting from her estrangement with Willow and the dissolution of her marriage to Sunny, had begun to express a wish to be more involved in Wiley and Amelia's lives. The problem wasn't Nina herself, but the baggage she carried. Sunny's unpredictable behavior, the lasting effects of Carly's animosity, and the Corinthos name being dragged into scandal after scandal made it increasingly difficult for Michael to justify a black-and-white custody battle. Willow, ever the peacemaker, had appealed with him to consider a middle ground. They had kids to raise, not wars to win. Michael reluctantly agrees. The custody agreement granted Michael and Willow full legal rights, but Nina's visitation rights were extremely regulated and supervised. It was a legal step that allowed for healing while also setting boundaries, which Willow thought were required for her own sanity. Michael wasn't only concerned with safeguarding his children anymore. It was about safeguarding his marriage, his family's future, and his mental health. The drama was never ending, and making a slightest concession to Nina seemed like bringing a storm through the front door. Nonetheless, he had signed the documents. While Michael was navigating the complex maze of family devotion and compromise, another drama unfolded in a completely different part of Port Charles. Gio, still trying to overcome his remorse over the Valentine debacle, had been spending more time with Emma Scorpio Drake. She was intelligent, motivated, and restless. After returning from her studies abroad, Emma began working with GH's biomedical research team, specifically on a number of classified projects left by the late Dr. David Finn. The projects were encrypted and securely stored in the lab's limited database. However, Emma discovered inconsistencies, files with titles that did not match, sudden increases in lab access at strange hours, and study notes signed by someone long thought to be dead. She had initially kept her suspicions to herself, but then Gio dropped by the lab one evening to surprise her, only to discover her sifting through digital files in a poorly lit office. She looked up surprised and made him promise not to tell anyone. She argued that something wasn't right. There were entries in the logs indicating that someone was tampering with DNA archives, altering patient records. She wasn't sure who or why. But what really troubled her was a piece of code she came across that mentioned a Ch52 restoration protocol. It meant nothing to her, but it reminded Gio of his late father referencing a confidential Corinthos-related study during his final days working for an off-the-books government organization. Their curiosity became an obsession. Emma was the brain. Gio was the lockpicker. They became a dangerous duo. Over the course of a week, they devised a strategy to get access to the GH Lab's fully restricted sector, the area where physical samples, including genetic materials, were held in cold storage. Emma's credentials could only lead them so far. To continue deeper, they had to get past a biometric scanner that required retinal ID from a long-dead man, Dr. Silas Clay. However, Emma identified a backdoor override linked to a legacy researcher's access codes. The only problem? Those codes were kept in an off-site backup facility, buried in the basement of General Hospital's archives. That's when things began to spiral. Emma and Gio entered the archives late one night, posing as members of a maintenance staff performing fireproofing examinations. The building was mostly deserted, with the exception of a few security guards and a janitor who appeared to be half asleep. Emma found the files, which were encoded on an old drive labeled Clay/Dana 9. Gio opened the casing with a surgical blade and transferred the encrypted codes to Emma's flash drive. They almost got away unnoticed, until the janitor saw them on the service stairs, recognized Gio, and phoned it in. By the time Gio and Emma arrived at the lab to test the access codes, GH security had been notified. An alarm went off just as the final door slid open, revealing a temperature-controlled vault of genetic materials labeled with names both familiar and buried: Morgan Corinthos, Jake Doe, even one labeled Patient 0N. Reeves. They never got inside. Emma attempted to accept responsibility after being hauled into hospital administration the following morning. She said that she discovered a probable flaw in the database that might lead to misdiagnosis or misconduct. But her tone was frantic, and her explanation was overly elaborate. Gio wouldn't let her take the fall. He admitted that he had coerced her into investigating a scheme he suspected was linked to his family. Neither version of the tale pleased the board. Their internships were suspended. They were granted a formal warning. The data they had viewed were sealed again, and a thorough inquiry was launched, but quietly beneath the radar, so as not to bring public notice to the break-in. Michael found out later that week, first about the break-in, then about Joe's role. Initially, he was enraged. Not only had his cousin broken into a high-security research facility, but whatever was going on in that lab could potentially collide with his own precarious custody situation. The mere fact that there were files tagged with Nina's name, genetic samples, experimental tags, raised too many warning lights. He couldn't help but worry if the compromise had exposed his family to something even more deadly than Nina's manipulations. His mind drifted back to the day he signed the custody agreement. He had been reluctant, even skeptical. However, as Emma and Gio unearthed hidden archives and medical samples linked to long-dead persons, Michael's instincts returned. Had someone changed patient records to protect Nina? Or to hide something darker, such as Willow's transplant? Or what about Wiley's genetic history? He started making calls. First, Diane will determine the legal validity of DNA evidence in ancient hospital records. Then he went to Spinelli and asked him to conduct a background check on anyone associated with the CH-52 restoration protocol. Finally, he called Carly. She picked up the first ring, her voice hesitant. She had heard murmurs, she explained, regarding odd funding allocated to a shell program using Crimson's old accounts. About a mysterious benefactor with connections to Shadybrook. Nothing made sense on paper. But it all pointed to one conclusion. Someone has been falsifying records at GH for a long time. Emma and Gio had cracked the door open. Emma felt heartbroken. She never wanted any of this to become public. Her purpose had been to reveal the truth rather than to cause scandal. However, once Michael became involved, there was no turning back. He had resources, lawyers, and a personal reason to investigate whatever was going on. The question now was not whether Gio and Emma had done the right thing, but whether they had discovered something that someone else would kill to keep hidden. Gio wasn't afraid. His entire existence had revolved on shadow games, secrets, and loyalty. What worried him now was the possibility that his link with Emma may be shattered. They had begun as two children seeking excitement. They were now two persons hiding a secret that had the potential to destroy the entire GH Foundation. He told Emma that if necessary, he would take the fall again. She simply shook her head and assured him, "No one is falling. We're going to fix it." Michael had other plans. He began asking access to files containing Amelia's original pediatric evaluations. What he discovered concerned him: minor anomalies, unexplained gaps, and notes signed off by a doctor who was no longer licensed to practice. He did not tell Willow. Not yet. But he had planned to. Soon. As the walls drew in, Emma and Gio returned to one another, their bond strengthened by a common burden. Meanwhile, Michael prepared for what could be his most significant battle yet, not only to preserve his children's future, but also to uncover a mystery that had linked his custody agreement to a decades-old labyrinth of genetic secrets. He didn't know where it would lead, but one thing was obvious. The past was not buried. The fire at Sonny Corinthos' penthouse sent shockwaves around Port Charles, leaving behind smoldering remains and traces of ash that raised more questions than answers. The majority of Sonny's inner circle had fled only minutes before the blaze devoured the center of his compound, an alarming coincidence that didn't sit well with the experienced crime boss. For many it was a tragic accident, but Sonny knew better. The timing was too precise, too surgical. Someone was sending a message. Now all signs led to John Brennan. Brennan, a former government asset turned rogue operative, had been on a knife's edge with Sonny for months. Their tense connection had deteriorated as a result of many betrayals, hidden threats, and hushed accusations that never rose to the surface but remained simmering beneath. Brennan, with his sharp suits and sharper tongue, once moved like a ghost through police enforcement and the underworld. Now he was cornered, on the run, under suspicion, and officially named the primary suspect in the fire. Sonny remained silent as he stood at the edge of the penthouse ruins, the air thick with soot and burning wood. He did not need to. Dante, standing a few steps away, noticed his father's deadly calm posture. This was not about insurance or property loss. This was about warfare. Diane Miller was the first to suggest caution. She advised Sonny to be patient and let the evidence speak for itself. Forensics, she claimed, may identify the accelerant used, and perhaps link the source to Brennan directly. But Sonny did not want to wait. He craved blood. To him, the fire was personal, an attempt not only to destroy property, but also to shake his legacy and cause a blunder. Brennan wanted Sonny to lash out, and Sonny was willing to comply. Meanwhile, Brennan was not helping his case. He had vanished soon after the fire. Only an hour before the incident, security footage from a nearby parking garage caught him getting into a black SUV. Even more damning, a lighter with Brennan's initials was discovered half-melted near the elevator shaft. The police suspected arson. For Sonny, it was confirmation of betrayal. Still, something didn't seem right. Jason Morgan, who had returned to town after months of hiding, was the only one willing to admit what others would not. Brendan may have been framed. If Brennan wanted you dead, you'd be dead, Jason stated gently, sipping a bourbon at Pozzolo's. This was a mess. Sloppy. He's not sloppy. Sonny did not respond, but he did listen. Jason's homecoming had been a gift amidst the commotion. Nobody knew Sonny better. Nobody understood the gravity of vendettas and the dangers of misguided vengeance like Jason. The possibility that Brennan was being set up generated more troubling questions. Who had the power and motivation to start this battle between them? A few days later, Carly contacted Sonny with a frantic voice. She had seen Brennan. He was sheltering in an abandoned safe house used by the Corinthos organization during a previous war. Carly followed a hunch and it paid off. Brennan had not fled town. He was waiting. Sonny received the call in quiet. No one could talk him down, not Ava, Michael, or even Dex, who warned him that revenge would bring the feds down hard. But Sonny was done waiting. He grabbed his coat, checked the magazine in his sidearm, and exited Pozzolo's with murder in his eyes. The safe house on the outskirts of Port Charles was unusually quiet. Sonny stepped through the splintered door, rifle raised and heart steady. Brennan stood in the center of the room, unarmed, with his hands outstretched. "I didn't do it," Brennan stated plainly. "You know I didn't." Sonny did not blink. "You've disappeared. You've left a trail. Your lighter was discovered at the site." "I'm being set up," Brennan responded. "And if you kill me now, you'll be playing right into their hands." Sonny asked, his voice low and menacing. "The feds? Pikemen? Who do you cover for?" Brendan swallowed hard. His ordinarily impenetrable face was tense with anxiety. "There is a splinter group within Pikemen. I attempted to take them down from the inside. They burned down your house because they believed I had told you too much. And now they want us to destroy each other. Sonny stopped for a single second. It wasn't faith but calculation. Brennan appeared afraid. Not for his life but for what could happen next. That was new. That was not the Brennan Sonny knew. Still, the pictures of his burnt living room, the close call that could have killed his guards, and the chaos he'd had to clean up reverberated in his mind. Sonny raised his revolver gently. I should kill you anyway, he explained. Brennan did not move. You do, and you'll never find out who started that fire. Outside, Jason waited in a black SUV, looking at the structure through binoculars. He did not trust Brennan. But he also didn't believe the sudden trail of evidence that made Brennan appear guilty. It was just too handy. Back inside, Sonny moved closer. Give me a name. Now, Brennan exhaled. I'm Clint Travis. He previously served in the military. Manages logistics for Pikeman's off-the-books enterprise. He went renegade few months ago. He wants you gone. And he's the one who planted the lighter. That wasn't enough. Not yet. But Sonny was close. Sirens suddenly rang in the distance. Brennan's eyes widened. You brought the cops? He hissed. Sonny shakes his head. I didn't. But someone knew we'd both be here. The setup was more complex than either of them expected. Sonny backed out of the safe house, holding Brennan at gunpoint and shoving him into Jason's truck. They didn't talk on the journey back. However, the tension in the car was thick. Brennan understood that while this might buy him time, it would not grant him forgiveness. In the days that followed, Dante had access to further surveillance footage. A man with Clint Travis build was seen near the penthouse before the fire. Jason investigated Travis movements and discovered payments made from an offshore account linked to Pikeman's shell corporations. Brennan's story started to hold water. But the issue now was containment. The feds had learned of Brennan's presence in Port Charles and wanted him hard. Sonny was caught in the middle, trying to protect a man he could still want dead, while also dismantling a larger menace that loomed over the entire organization. Sonny's family began to feel the consequences. Michael confronted him about the fire, and the violence that threatened to consume their life again. Willow, still healing from her own trauma, urged Michael not to become involved. Ava advised Sonny take a step back before the city and his penthouse burnt down. But Sonny could not stop. If he did, he would lose control over everything. Control for a man like Sonny meant survival. Brennan eventually revealed them the location of Clint Travis' hideout. It was a trap, of course, but Sonny stepped into it anyway, this time accompanied by Jason and Dex, who were both heavily armed. The showdown was harsh, brief, and explosive. Clint died in a shower of bullets, his final words a twisted confirmation that he had wanted Sonny and Brennan to eliminate each other, so that Pikeman could move in unopposed on the territory. With Clint dead and Brennan out of the fire, Sonny was left with a new dilemma. What do we do with Brennan now? You're still a threat, Sonny stated days later when they met on the docks. And you're still a liability, Brennan answered. They did not shake hands. They did not forgive. But Brennan went away, free for the moment under Sonny's watchful eye. The fire may have been extinguished, but the ashes had hardly settled. Trust was gone, skepticism remained, and Sonny Corinthos believed the struggle was far from over.